been saying, it's not, things are not so bad, right? We have to understand here that we can get rid of the religiosity, but we can't get rid of that core. Let's look at the core. I have no arguments for you. I have no opinions. You can quote me as saying nothing that thou shouldst do or not do anything. Yeah. Here, we serve the text, baby. This is the museum. We serve the text. Let's look at what that text says. John, bring him up.
Okay, so here he is selling himself as the honest one without any motivation. And he only looks at the text, and he's only translating the text. But we'll see in a moment that he's translating them very, very manipulatively.
Jesus, he said, I am. And it says they went around to his back. They circled him. They went around him so he couldn't get away. And epesan hamai, they fell on him. They attacked. The Greek uses this for falling all the time. All the time. One enemy falls upon another. So they surround him and they take him. They start to arrest him. They grab him, right? And as they're going for him, Jesus says,
right. The Greek expert will know that hamai means to the ground, and picto is to fall hard. And it's talking about the people there who came to arrest him in John's account falling backwards. It's very clear. But for some reason, Ammon has to have it completely screwed and say that they're falling on him, they're surrounding him, that they went round to his back. That's just nonsense. I think anybody could see that knows the slightest bit of Greek.
Look at the first line, hos. Hos, look at the two first words of the next line. Epi leistein. Go ahead and take it down. You're coming at me as if you're coming against, or coming to arrest, or coming to apprehend a leistes. What is that? What is that? People like to translate it as robber. Robber. But that doesn't make it. That doesn't quite make it there. Jesus says, what are you guys so heavily armed for? What'd you come out against me for? Look at your armed resistance. What'd you come out? Let's look at the there we go.
All right, I'll come back to that. Obviously, he's now trying to minimize the fact that leistes, yes, it can be translated robber or outlaw. The leistes were the ones that mugged the chap on the Jericho road that the Good Samaritan helped. They were violent thieves. They were violent people, and they were violent robbers. So it's a legitimate translation, but I think in the context it should be rebel.
There we go. Here's the definition of leistes, right? It's from Laidzo, for those of you who are in Greek, right? Good. And notice that they first give you robber or pirate, right? You think to yourself, wait a minute, pirate? Jesus is saying, what you guys come out here so heavily armed like I'm a pirate? Right? Oh, well, what does that mean? Well, it's especially somebody at sea, so there's some kind of sea connection. That's where we're getting pirate, brigand, buccaneer, right? Buccaneer. Later, pirates. Now you know where you get the word pirate from. Yeah, but what are these? Shiver me timbers? These aren't the guys that make Johnny Depp look good. This is not that kind of a pirate, right? These are sex traffickers. Look at the very bottom. Used by Lycophron. Who is Lycophron? Lycophron is the poet who is preserving the song of Cassandra. Yeah, the song of Cassandra, who is the Bacchic Sibyl. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And you'll notice there in that Lycophron, it's okay, you'll notice there in that Lycophron that we have a reference to child abduction. Yeah, it turns out in antiquity, let me just lay this on straight. You want to come to the garden of grave delight. Here we are in this place. Take a whiff around. You know what you smell? You smell groups of traffickers who will sail into a port, jump off the ship armed, with enough force to overwhelm the local authorities, and take prisoner, young men and young women, boys and girls. And if this kind of thing, where do they take them? They take them somewhere and traffic them to sell them, right? To sell them. It's not very nice. It's not very nice indeed. Yes, but this is the word. The leistes is the word for this trafficker. And so when Jesus says, "What'd you come out against me so heavily armed? What do you think I am, a trafficker?" The fact that there's a naked kid standing next to him.
Right. I could have paused a bit earlier. If you notice on the definition from the LSJ, that is, that he shows that dictionary, it's a metaphorical meaning in Lycrophon. I'll talk a bit more about the Lycrophon text in a minute, but the other thing to note is that it says later pirates, and that's true because leistes ceased to mean pirate when it went into Koine Greek. Pirates is the word for pirate in Koine Greek. So Jesus speaking leistes, can't be saying pirate because he would be saying pirate, pirates. So he's not that. So that's strike number one. Leistes didn't even mean pirate in any of the scriptural texts that we have because they're all in Koine Greek. And the other thing is that Lycrophon passage there is a metaphorical, and I will talk more about the Lycrophon passage soon.
You'll notice that translators since Tyndale have been following this same path. So you can track this man, Mr. Renner's education. You get it down to his education about where he came up with these ideas. When he says, I am, and lets off the glory bomb, causing all the soldiers to fall around, right? And by the way, that stuff he said about balance is not in that at all. It's not there at all. He's making stuff up. That's why I'm saying these are lies. He is making stuff up. There's nothing to do with staggering in that Greek, period. Nothing. They simply went around and took custody of him, right? Took him down. Yeah. It's a bust, right? It's a bust.
I'll let it move on.
Overwhelmingly bad. When this man takes you into the back, okay, and he starts this act, right? You don't know that his Greek is wrong. It is. Plainly, openly. Yeah.
Right. Really, the two of them together, he's saying that all of the biblical translators have been getting it wrong ever since Tyndale. And they've all been following this fairy tale of this great moral, upright Jesus and putting the word robber in there instead. So that was his play there, because he's the Greek expert.
For those of you who want a little more context, by the way, with child sex trafficking in antiquity, there we go. With the child sex trafficking in antiquity, sometimes it can get kind of formalized. And when the pirates show up, you have a certain number of, teens that they need to be given. Yeah, and that keeps them from coming back. They only come back once a year, right? And the mothers in antiquity are singing about these things. Yeah, about how terrible it is to be taken in those captive and to have your child ripped from you in order to enter into this garden of delight, where these kids are sold off.
And that's true. But he's trying to draw that into the Lycrophon text. And it actually has no relevance to it, apart from the mother's singing, the mother's mourning, but not for the reason that he's implying.
Talking about a time and a place, very specific things, very specific historical events. And the only thing that we can trust is the language. The language preserves this. The language preserves what the actual statement was that Jesus made. He said, you're arresting me. He said, what? You're arresting me like I'm a pirate of people. Like I'm a sex trafficker. So.
And I think that's fairly obvious. He is just placing that into the text. It can't be there, but he has woven his story very well so far.
You're arresting me like I'm a pirate of people. Like I'm a sex trafficker. So, known accomplices, prostitutes, and accountants. Arrested in a public park at 4 a.m. with a naked boy. Armed resistance was provided. So we think we've come to the place that Jesus regularly hangs out, where he does his biz. You don't see him doing any carpentry, do you? Right? But he is hanging out with prostitutes and accountants, with naked boys, in places that we know are the necromancers hang. It's a place to hang. Right? He's waiting there for the dawn. He's waiting there for the dawn. You know the process of trading children in antiquity is directly connected with occult mystery. Are you surprised? Shouldn't be. Jehovah has his Ganymede, right? We understand this. So we provide Jesus. It looks like we've got enough evidence to say that there is a direct association between Jesus, aka the Christ, and the sex trade, first century.
That's quite a masterpiece, putting all of that together and putting the insinuations there. Of course, Mary Magdalene, she wasn't a prostitute. That was only Pope Gregory saying that, you know, she was involved with all these sins. She was the sinful woman. We don't know really who Mary Magdalene was. So somehow she becomes the prostitutes associated with Jesus's gang. And of course, the accountant is Matthew. So he is piecing together all these incriminating suggestions, and it becomes truth, of course.
You trust me. It's important to me to give you the most accurate information possible. So when I'm showing you those words, that's why I'm trying to give you the philological background, and to show you, hey, see this? It's just translating here this, right? Because I have nothing to sell you. Now,
again, this was his, you got to trust me, because I'm not here racketeering. I'm not here taking tithe offerings. I'm not here selling you merchandise. All right. So that makes him trustworthy, of course. And he's the great philologist, so he knows how to translate these texts properly, because he sees them with the view from ancient antiquity, and he knows all the medical texts, and he puts them all together and understands it that nobody else has.
God, I wanted to show you a little bit of the prophecy of Cassandra, and I wanted you to see there's some lovely imagery there, and some talk of what you can do with your daughters. You can dedicate your daughters to the temple, and they'll be protected. And we, as members of the community who worship Hecate and protect those virgins, we take up weapons, stones, bows, against those pirates who we catch with our children naked. It turns out the chief pirate is the Son of God. Get your hands off him. The parents were saying, get your hands off him. All right? Stop touching my children. That's what people told Jesus. He was like, don't scandalize me. Yeah. Maybe that's what it is.
And you heard there a couple of totally screwed up biblical references as well. But he did talk about the Lycophon poem there. It's called, it's Cassandra, is the prophetess who is being interpreted by Alexandra, which is Lycophon's poem Alexandra. Yes, there is in this section where the Lestes is mentioned, a paragraph where girls who don't wish to be married can be dedicated. That's true. And there's another passage where it's men are taking up the bull slaying axes and the stones, and they're watching out. But it is not for pirates to come and steal their children. It is about the Locrian maidens. Now you can wiki it and get all the detail. But long story short, the passage is talking about Cassandra's rape by Ajax. She was the oracle of Athena, and she was raped by Ajax on his way home after Troy. And the phrase in Lycophon is talking about the leader. He's talking about the army, the navy leader, the leader who sinned against the laws of marriage. He is the pirate of the Cyprian goddess, who's Aphrodite. And that really, pirate is the wrong word, because he violently stole. He's the violent robber of my Aphroditic virginity. That's what she's saying. So
Ali, yeah. I'm going to sort of hurry you along a bit because there's another 10-minute clip. So
okay, sure.
we're not going to have time to get into such minutiae of detail.